restoring hope. Open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
And good day. Thank you for joining us. I am Tamara Scott. We first thank our sponsors, Christians for America, the CRAVE, Christians for America, my friends Don Swarthout and Danny Van Gundy, who are helping people find their way out of addiction into deliverance and living free. And I thank Mac, Webcast One Studios, for allowing me to be here and giving me the studio space and also sharing his air with me on Restoring Hope. Mac usually also discusses those topics of helping you in the individual lifestyle or life plan and restoring hope in that way, in a very personal way. I usually come at the restoring hope in our nation by tackling those issues that we're all dealing with. If you were listening to the first part of the hour, we were talking about the fact that we start out with our day and there's so many obstacles that stop us from the plan we got up with that morning. And if you're not able to hear the first part of this hour, you can always listen on Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m. Central. Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Central at webcast1live.com. Webcast1 is spelled out, webcast1live.com. If you ever want an archive of the show, you can find that at Tamara Scott Live on YouTube. Tamara Scott Live on YouTube. We will possibly at some point get a website set up. I've just never made it about me, and I'm so thankful to have Ryan Northfield as my producer, who just flies with me and gets the information to you each week so you can use it. And that's our mission, helping you live God's Word in today's world and helping you when the headlines hit home. One of the headlines, we have several headlines. I actually have several pulled up. In fact, Ryan, do you want to take a quick, do you have that one about Bill Maher up there? And did you find the one about the bizarre homework? Okay. Let's show the photo of Bill Maher just real quickly. You won't see me championing Bill Maher yet. He's been so negative to anybody with a faith, and even said Christians at one point, I think he said that they were mentally ill. At the same time, he has been defending Christians because he's now seen what the Islamic faith or the Muslim faith or the Sharia law does with the violence and how it is promoted in that faith. And I have now seen him actively defend Christianity as not violent and not having violence promoted within the religion, but it is in the Islam, in the Quran. There are scriptures that talk about how to handle your wife, treat her as you'd treat the cattle. It talks about how to actually to beat your wife. And so to see him defend that was quite, I think, a new corner for us. But here's why I bring it up. Berkeley students have started a petition. They don't want him speaking on campus. They're calling him a racist and a bigot because he's actually got the nerve to speak the truth. He's now facing the same discrimination the rest of us have faced, who've been saying it for some time. And so this is why I show it to you. It will not just be those who are deemed the right-wing extremist. It won't be the right-wing fanatics or the Christians that they're trying to silence like this mayor in Houston is doing. They'll come after anyone with whom they disagree. Who is they? Those in power. Those we elect in power or those who take it if we fail, if we don't show up on election day. And we have an election day coming up, Tuesday, November 4th. Make sure you are there. Make sure your vote is counted, or you let the people in power be people you may not necessarily agree with, who may turn on you. And we have proof of this. Condoleezza Rice as well. I think I brought this up either last spring or the spring before that. I think she had an invitation rescinded to speak. And again, she's not a right-wing conservative. She's not a right-wing Christian fanatic as far as the label, but they didn't care what she was talking about. They didn't appreciate it. And so someone tried to silence her. We have to be so careful to protect our liberties. The other headline that we didn't get brought up was bizarre homework that was sent home with students. Some are calling it Common Core. Some are saying it's not necessarily Common Core, so be careful not to label it that. We don't want to lose credibility. Just the same, the teacher had made up her assignment. The school is now falling back on this, saying the teacher had totally made up her assignment. But as my guest will tell you, teachers are now making up assignments to fall in line with the testing that is coming through the Common Core. And I don't know that this was or not, I'm not saying it was, but students were told to go home to the medicine cabinet, look through, write down what was in there, and bring it back to the teacher. If that doesn't send chills up your spine, there is nothing more personal than the health products that you may or may not have in your cabinet. Now, the school is back down, like the mayor of Houston, because there's a hue and a cry. But it shows you the intent, and they're saying this may just be the innocence of a new teacher. Even if you give her all of that latitude, why on earth would anybody think that is a good idea? So, we're going to jump to the Common Core, because it as well is an intrusive, top-down educational system that will take away the freedom of the states, the sovereignty of the states, the authority and rights of the parents. And my guest is Dr. James Arnold, who has been in education for decades, and you will appreciate his wisdom, his experience, and his downright home, his ability to speak to you as if he were your neighbor next door. Dr. Jim Arnold, thank you for joining me.
My pleasure, Tamara.
So the headlines that I just read, are they that far out of our existence with what we hear seeing coming through with Common Core?
No, I don't think it's that unusual. I, too, have seen the examples, the odd homework examples posted in different places. I don't think that those are the exception. I think that those are rather, they're becoming rather the norm rather than the odd occurrence from time to time.
Well, and I know I was reading one of the articles you'd written, and we'll go through a couple of your articles, and I want to jump to the option game first. That's the one we told our listeners we'd be talking about in the testing, but I think I read that teachers, or maybe it was your speech on your website, and then folks, if you would like to go to his website, Dr. James Arnold. I don't think I even have to spell any of that for you. There is no period after doctor. drjamesarnold.com, and listen to the video. You present yourself very, very well, but I think on there you were saying that some of the teachers are now making up lessons to fit into the testing.
Oh, sure, absolutely. I've always thought that creativity was one of the strengths of the American public educational system. And what we're doing with Common Core, what we're seeing now with the implementation of Common Core, is the stamping out of creativity in the classroom. Every teacher is required to post in one way or another, either write on the board or have a little sign of the standard that they are teaching for the day. And when an administrator walks into the room, he or she expects to see that teacher following the teaching of the standard that's posted in the room. I think that does more to stamp out creativity than almost anything else we could think of.
And so in Iowa, we continue to hear that you'll have local control and you'll get to choose your curriculum. And I've had teachers pro-Common Core want to argue with me as I present this to groups across the state. Well, we get to make up our lessons. And it just clicked with me just now. They're making up their lessons, but they're complying with the test. It's not local control.
You're
it's
exactly
local
right.
Compliance.
If they're going to be evaluated, as much as 50% of their evaluation each year is going to be made up of student test scores, that VAM method that's been in the news so much recently. You can only expect human beings to respond to how they're going to be evaluated. And if 50% of their evaluation is student test scores, of course they're going to try their best to make sure that those test scores are good. And that means that you implement test-taking strategies and what you think is going to be on the test to the exclusion of almost everything else.
Now, I am just going to pop another little headline in here in an article from U.S. News. The Common Core opposition continues to grow. In 2013, 12% of teachers opposed it. 2014, 40% of teachers are now opposing it. Doctor, would you prefer I call you Jim or James, or how would you prefer?
Jim will be great.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's go to the article that you wrote. I found it fascinating. It is called The Option Game. Tell our listeners how they might find it so they may read it.
You can go to my website and click on the blog on the right-hand side of the website, and it'll lead you to, I think there are 17 articles that I published there. It's also on Diane Ravitch's website. If you'd rather go to Diane, and you can look on the tab that says Georgia, I believe, and it'll come up as The Option Game.
Okay, so I'm just going to start going through that article, if you don't mind, and just start talking about some of the points I thought were incredible. So one of the things you said, it should be obvious now that 13 years of accountableism has produced no positive results. So when we have these testing, I mean, we're now testing more than ever. Do you know the number of hours kids are being tested in the classroom?
Well, it depends, and it varies from not just from state to state, but system to system and school to school. There are a lot of systems, especially the larger systems, that have implemented their own district diagnostic test to give them an idea of how they think their students might score on the federally mandated exams or state mandated exams. I've seen estimates from teachers in the classroom that up to 35% of class time is spent in test preparation or actual testing.
And let's just help our listeners understand, testing doesn't teach. It may assess what you know, but this is teaching time the students are losing.
I saw an interesting statistic the other day that, no, it wasn't a statistic, it was an observation the other day, that what our tests are actually measuring, the standardized test, is the students' test-taking ability more than anything else. That students are learning to game the system, just like a lot of schools and teachers are doing.
And so what they'll do is they will jump through the hoops of what is required of them, rather than, as you're saying, the creativity, the gifts that they've been given, the knowledge that they may have in another area. I was just reading somebody's bio, someone we know in our day and age, not someone, and their father, a teacher, had sent one of the ways they did subtraction or division to the textbook company, who then used that as an example. We wouldn't get that today because students will not be allowed the ability to have anything outside of the parameters of what they're being taught through Common Core and tested upon.
So you're exactly right. And the strange thing about it to me is teachers are giving examples of what districts might think would be on the test, but nobody is allowed to see the actual test, which seems to me there's a reason for the secrecy, and I don't think that it's good for kids. I'm concerned about Common Core for several reasons. First of all, were the lies about the development of Common Core. I don't know any other way to put it other than just outright lies. They said there was significant teacher input in the development of Common Core, and that's just been shown to be untrue. And it says that the Common Core standards have a basis in educational research, but nobody's been able to prove or produce any educational research that supports Common Core. I think that what we're seeing from teachers is an extenuation of the old saying, familiarity breeds contempt. And while they might be willing to go along with the implementation because that's what they were told to do at the beginning, now they're seeing that the standards are not only poorly written, but some of them are developmentally inappropriate,
right,
especially for young children.
Right. And so I want to come back to your article here. You say, if you believe the SAT is reflective of student achievement, then 13 years of test, retest, and test again have been an abysmal failure in serving as anything other than a reliable predictor of family income.
That's exactly right. You know, the zip code effect is you can predict from SAT scores. Generally, children from poverty don't do as well as affluent white kids on the SAT test. Here in Georgia, you know, there's been an effort over the last 8 or 10 years or so to increase SAT scores. Well, statisticians will tell you that if you really want to increase SAT scores, then we need to limit the number of students that take the test. Most of our students that are planning on going to college in Georgia end up taking the SAT because the schools that they're looking to go to require that as part of their entrance examinations. So we have hundreds of thousands of students each year that take the SAT. Well, the more students that take it, naturally the scores are going to be lower. But nobody wants to hear that. The answer I get when I pose the question is, well, that's the only measurement we have. I'm baffled by the proclivity of some folks who would rather use bad information than no information at all.
Well, there's two things there, and you may want to put your own disclaimer in here that the views of the host are not necessarily your views. But when we talk, I'm hearing this movement as well, that poverty, we need to deal with poverty because kids in poverty don't learn. I don't think that poverty is the indicator of what causes a child to learn or not learn. I think there are probably other indicators within the home that are creating a bigger obstacle for that child's learning, whether it's lifestyle habits, not support, homework support, lack of a parent. But I will tell you this, just read last night an article talking about the greatest way to ensure against poverty is 2 biological parents married in the home.
I would not disagree with that at all. What we used to consider the norm is now abnormal.
Right.
You know, I'm originally from North Mississippi and spent a good deal of my life in Mississippi and in rural Alabama. I thought I knew what poverty was until I moved to South Georgia and got to see poverty on a scale that I had only imagined. You know, I was a superintendent in South Georgia for a while, and teachers would tell me about kids that would come to school. One young man didn't come to school for a week, and the teacher went to his home to find out, he was in 3rd grade, why he was not coming to school. And the reason was they did not have plumbing and they did not have electricity, and he was forced to sleep with his little brother. His little brother wet the bed, and every morning he would wake up smelling like urine, and he was not about to come to school smelling that way because other kids would make fun of it. And now that's poverty on a level that you just have to see to believe. And those kind of things have a greater effect on teaching and learning than most people imagine.
And you talk about that. I think in your video that it's culturally acceptable right now to blame the teacher for
Sure.
the problems in the school, when really what we're dealing with are societal issues. And I want to give you a chance to talk about that, but I also want to come back to the fact of the poverty. You know, Dr. Ben Carson is giving us the best example right now. Poor. Mother worked several jobs, cleaned several houses each day to make sure that she could provide for her kids without going on a government program. And she made those kids read. Though she could not read, she made them read 2 books a week with a book report, I think. And so that's
the exception rather than the rule.
Yeah.
Boy, if that were the rule, even in households, that would do more to effects of poverty teachers could do in their short
Right.
8-hour days.
Right. You're absolutely right. It's the same thing I tell the voters with the leaders. If you would change the way you live, you wouldn't be worried about these impressive laws and such an intrusive government. Same thing here. If parents would change the way they live and actually parent at home, it'd make the job much easier in the school. They'd see an improvement in those grades. We can't
You're right.
just continue to blame the teachers. So let's come back. Let's talk about the opting out. you're suggesting that parents opt their kids out?
Absolutely. Standardized testing serves a political purpose rather than an educational purpose. If they were serious about believing that standardized testing was helping students, then they would give those tests at the beginning of the year and then let teachers tailor their instruction for the rest of the year to make up deficiencies that the testing pointed out. I don't know how old you are, but when I was in school, teachers were given the freedom to tailor tests to their own classes. The second period class was not the same as the third period class.
Right.
It wasn't the same as the second semester class.
Right.
And teachers knew more about what their students could and could not do than any standardized test could ever show. They were not only free to do that, but encouraged to do that and to differentiate instruction to each individual child. Good teachers never, ever, ever use a a blanket approach to education where one size fits all, where everybody understands the same example. Teachers modify their examples and their instruction based on individual student needs and individual student performance. Well, how does standardizing a test help that individualization? Every parent wants individualization for their child, but standardization robs teachers of that ability.
Absolutely. And we know that now some colleges are not requiring the standardized test anymore. I don't think it's very many of them yet. I think there will be more in time as this testing I think it will hit its own brick wall. Jim?
Well, you're right. I think we're headed that way. I think more and more parents are waking up to the fact that they made it through high school and college without the intrusion of standardized testing in their lives, and they don't want their children identified as a test scorer either.
And so the Board of Education in Colorado Springs passed a ruling allowing parents the option of opting out, and
Sure.
we know in New York, over 35,000 students
Yeah, and I think there are going to be more next year.
opted out.
This year,
Out.
excuse me. Yeah, and see, that's one of the things that I'm disappointed in Georgia is that politicians generally have their kids in private schools, but they're making decisions about public school kids that they don't want for their own children. I've always thought that, if standardized testing was a wonderful idea, then private schools would have jumped all over it.
That's right.
They generally, want their kids to be successful, just like public school teachers do. So if it were a good idea, why have they not implemented that at whatever cost? Well, it's because they know that it's a waste of time and money, and it serves a political purpose rather than an educational purpose. And I just object to the fact that the president and Arnie Duncan and Bill Gates put their kids in private schools where testing is not an issue,
Right.
and school lunches either, for that matter, and insist on, well, our kids need that standardized testing, but, my own kids really don't.
As one of my other guests said, they're teaching their kids how to make decisions that are best for your kids, and they're
Right.
teaching your kids how to be compliant. My guest is Dr. Jim Arnold. You probably hear the music. We're going to have to take a break from our listeners across the nation. If you want to hear the rest of this program, you can go to Tamara Scott Live on YouTube, Tamara Scott Live on YouTube. And Dr. Jim, can you stay with us just a few more minutes past this segment?
Absolutely.
All righty. So for our listeners who are going to be leaving us, we thank you for your time, and we just want you to understand these are your children. God gave you. You know better how to raise them than anybody else. With His help, He'll equip you to do it. Be encouraged and never be complacent. For more information, you can find us on Stop Common Core, Iowa Facebook page, or Truth for Our Time.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs,
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team,
I'll take a call anytime.
and then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legend.